Hi, my name is Steve Granelli. I'm the basic course director in the Communication Studies department. What that means is I'm responsible for teaching Comm 1101, which is Introduction to Communication Studies, our large lecture format class in Communication Studies. And I also teach a couple of other classes that are in my area of expertise. I teach small group communication, Comm 2534, and I also teach Comm 2800, which is sport and spectacle. My main responsibility, though, is creating the easiest transition possible for students that are coming into the discipline of communication studies. So that's why I teach Comm 1101. Comm 1101 was actually a class that we had been thinking about taking online for a long time. There were people in the department and also me especially who were really thinking about what an online format would look like, and it's something we were thinking about in the spring of 2020 already. When we were presented with the challenge of moving the course online very quickly, we had a lot of elements already in place of what we thought the course would look like. There was one thing that I was really hoping for, is that I could keep the class synchronous. And that's what we've been able to do. So the class is normally taught Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 1:35 p.m. So at that time, our students gather, and we've moved to a video lecture format using Zoom. I send the students a Zoom link, usually with a PowerPoint attached, with the PowerPoint that I will be going over the chapter for that day. And at 1:35, or usually about 1:20, actually, I start up the Zoom meeting. Our students start to filter in. And then we have a video lecture for usually the entire time of class. Now, one of the challenges for Comm 1101 was being able to offer it synchronously like I wanted, but also make it available asynchronously. So those lectures are recorded and then they're put up on our Blackboard page. So students that are either time shifted or they have other responsibilities and they can't be there during that time, they're able to watch the lectures later on. I do have the benefit in the face-to-face version of the class of having three amazing TAs, three undergraduate students who work with me. And typically in the face-to-face version, they do attendance, they look, they offer another ear for students who have questions and concerns. In the online version, they've been able to do the same thing. They're there with me in all the Zoom classes. They're in the chat during Zoom, so they're able to kind of prompt students or answer questions of students that they're asking if I maybe don't see them because I'm in the middle of a rant, as I typically am. Don't call it a rant, I would say an explanation in long form. TAs are offering virtual office hours, like I'm offering virtual office hours also. We've been having a ton of video meetings with our students to try to get them caught up if they fall behind on the video lectures at all, and just make ourselves available as possible. So it's not just me, it's them doing the same thing. Again, a lot of these elements were things that we were already thinking about putting into practice, and the force to move online kind of made us do those a little bit sooner than we had planned, but at least we were thinking about it ahead of time. One of the most important parts of Comm 1101 is creating a kind of environment that not necessarily we're all in this together, but we're all in this space together. I tell a lot of stories in the class about my personal life. I try to get students to connect the concepts from the class to their lives as well. And one of the things I was most worried about transitioning to online is that feeling was not going to be as present. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to maintain a synchronous class, an ability for the students to gather and a space for the students to gather with me and with the TAs to be able to respond in real time. Now, I'm not requiring them to turn on their microphones or turn on their cameras, but there are plenty of times throughout the class where I'll be asking questions and I don't even have to wait a half second before there's 10 microphones on and people are giving me responses, or I just see a live commentary on a lot of my lectures going on in the chat that I can't be actively involved in the chat while I'm teaching, but there my TAs are responding and making little jokes and fun stuff that people are engaging in. One of the things that I was most worried about, not only with the synchronous class, was the energy that I get from students in a large lecture. Because I'll tell you, there are times where, I'll teach a 20-person class, let's say, and it'll be over and I feel maybe like a little tired, like it's kind of exhausting to talk for anywhere between 80 and 100 minutes or whatever it might be. But when I'm done with those live lecture classes, it's like you get a shot of adrenaline, because if you get a bunch of people laughing or joking or just contributing and building off of the stuff that you say, It's very rare that I get through all of the material I have planned for any one day in Comm 1101 because I'm usually building off of the energy from my students and what they've said. I was real worried about that missing, and what I've noticed is that's not missing. I think one of the biggest disappointments about moving online was that we had to change what our end of semester Comm 1101 poster session looks like. Now, for some context, last semester, we've been doing this thing. It's their final project in Comm 1101. The students put together a poster, and it's a physical poster that they're then going to display over sometimes 2 classes, sometimes 1 class, but our students work in groups. So for example, this semester I have 184 students in the intro class, and I believe we have roughly 60 groups, right around there. So they work in groups of 3 typically, and they produce a physical poster, and the idea is they have to take some concepts from the class, combine them with an example that they find in real life or in pop culture or something that illustrates that concept. And then anybody who sees this poster, they're going to be either a more competent or a more ethical communicator. And it's worked really well in the past. And last semester in the fall was the first time we tried to really supersize the event. We rented the indoor quad in the Curry Student Center. We had all the posters put up on big poster boards. We invited all of the senior administration. We told all of the students to invite all of their friends. We had a bunch of different faculty in comm studies to come look at that point, I believe was 75 posters that were all put up for a couple of hours in Curry. And it was awesome. The students talked about how great it was, how much they liked it, how much they liked not only the project, but also the ability to explain it to all these random people who weren't part of the class. And they said, when they were explaining these basic concepts out of communication studies, they were surprised at not only how well they were explaining them, but how easy it was for other people to then understand the connections that they made. So they saw a real-time application and then being able to explain it to other people, and they were actually learning from their posters. So I loved the event, and we were all scheduled to do it again this year in the Curry Student Center, but that's not an option. So we tried to figure out a way to maintain the integrity of that assignment and still offer the opportunity for people to view the posters that the students have done. So what the students are doing now is they're creating digital versions of those posters using a number of different programs. Some are using PowerPoint, some are using InDesign, but they're creating just digital versions of those posters, and they're writing up a 500-word rationale that the students are still working in groups. They're working in virtual groups on, they're using Zoom or whatever it is they're using, but actually today they're submitting their digital posters. My TAs and I have had numerous Zoom video calls with groups going over drafts of their posters, giving them like visual kind of like digital suggestions about what they could do. And they're going out of their way. Some people are embedding video in their digital posters. Some are using GIFs. Some wanted to keep kind of like the handwritten feel of it. So I have one student who wrote out a lot of the stuff on white paper, took pictures of it, and then like put that handwritten aspect into the poster, so it still maintained kind of like some of that handcrafted feel to it. I'm so impressed with what the students are doing that I'm going to collect obviously all of the posters as they're submitted. I'm going to put them all together. I'm going to host them, hopefully on a site that Communication Studies will be able to host, and we'll be able to send out to all the same people that we would have invited to the poster session, to all the senior administration, to all the faculty members, to all the students, and send it to my students and say, show this to your parents, to your friends, to everything, so you can show them what you did.